WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American over here in Germany, tasting rare and exotic whiskeys. And today I have another single cask from BenRiach, 2008 distilled, 2021 bottled. This was cask number 21012, 261 bottles out of that cask. And it's 13 years old with 57.1% ABV. This is Whiskybase number 205196. Now, there's two things I want to talk about first of all. I'm not going to talk about BenRiach. I'm going to talk about the independent bottler that's Alambic Classique, as well as the group that was bottled for, FASSSTARK. So, first of all, the group that was bottled for, FASSSTARK. Fass means cask, stark means strength, cask strength. So someone actually wrote down or registered the name cask strength in German, and he is called André Haberecht, a friend of mine. He now works for Kirsch Whiskey. He used to be called the whiskey sniffer because he'd spend more time actually sniffing in his glass than he was drinking. He was one of the people who actually put out 1 to 2 videos a day way before I started. I've been doing this now for 6 years, so he was like 9 years ago, and he did this for 3 or 4 years, had his experience, did his 1,000+ videos, and then he actually went to the whiskey industry, to Kirsch Import, and said, would it maybe be possible that I could kind of work for you? And there was just at that time a little bit of a switch from the father of Kirsch to the son, Christoph, and he was not the biggest of the whiskey fans, the Christoph, and they wanted to expand into whiskey, and they needed an expert, and it was André Haberecht. He now spends at least half of his time in Scotland at the distilleries, scouting out the good casks, working together with Signature Vintage and so on, and he's been there, and it's been a blessing for Kirsch and for the German market because he has a great nose. Now, in his free time, this André Haberecht, also called Quinn, Quin, if you ever see him in my live streams, he might actually comment every once in a while there. He just started up his own little online community, and it's called FASSSTARK. For us that we know Roy from Aquavite, he now started with a group of other people, Dramface. It's a similar community. It has a whole different thing, though. Dramface is basically about people writing reviews and doing this. FASSSTARK is actually more of an old-style community where you have threads and where everyone would write and so on and so on. And there's a lot of people that are very, very active there. This cask was released. They sent an email, a shot to everyone that was registered, and you could go to an online shop that I work with together over here in Germany called Dein Whisky. They actually have the first single cask here of New Riff in all of Germany, and Dein Whisky is your whiskey. And they just had a secret link, and then that secret link, anyone in the email could click on it, buy it. It was 79 euros and 90 cents. I trust André, and so I bought it. Now, the second thing is, which is really interesting, is the independent bottler here. We have the Alambic Classique. Alambic is the type of cask, those old small pot stills, basically from Portugal. And what we have here is now a man. His name is Herman Supantz, and he's down in the Bavarian part of Germany. And he actually 35 years ago, more than 35 years ago, actually it's almost 40 years ago now, took over, I don't know if it was inherited or actually he bought into it, a tobacco shop. So cigars and things like that. And he was like, okay, what can I do here now to actually combine the cigars with something else? And he thought of cognac and Armagnac. And from there, it's a very, very short step to go to whiskey. And he, the Herman, was actually here the importer for Germany for some of the brands we might actually know. So, for example, Douglas Lang, he was the importer. Wow, today they're with Bremer Spirituosenkontor, BSC. He also was the importer for Cooper's Choice. They're now together with someone in Germany called Andy McNeil. and a few other brands. And then he was just like, James MacArthur. I don't know that brand. So sorry. And then he switched a little bit and he said, no, I'm not going to import for other people. I'm just going to import for myself. And he looked for these fabulous casks. Now, his motto is the following. It's not the color that's important, it's the flavor. If you look at this, this is bourbon. This is how a bourbon whiskey 13 years old should look like, 57.1%. It's very light. It's almost straw colored. I am so sick and tired of all of these sherry bombs with black Coca-Cola colors. They're just not the way whiskey should be. This is the way many, many whiskeys should look like. It's not a first fill bourbon, so it's a second fill bourbon, so I don't know what was in it before. And Herman here from our Alambic Classique, he actually has bought some new make and has it been laying around up in Scotland now for about somewhere between 10 and 15 years. So I think this might have been one of his casks that he actually bought back then and filled it up in cooperation with FASSSTARK. All right, so I love these stories of these old independent bottlers. I've never met Herman. He has a shop. Even his online shop looks like it's from 2003. Sorry, but it's up to date. He's talking about the newest whiskey fairs, the newest articles that he's the products that he's producing and putting out, and so on. And he only sells to the high class independent whiskey shops and hotels. I was like, not direct to consumer. Yay. So it's a very B2B business and only to the higher class independent whiskey shops. I like that. Way to go, Mr. Good thing. Now, this is a interesting whiskey to say the least. The Whiskybase reviews on this are very, very different. So Whiskybase 205196, 79 euros 90. There are people that like it, 89 points, and there's people who don't like it with 76 points, and so on. So there's a big diversity in the things here. I'm not sure either. The very first time I smell it, I get a little bit of apple vinegar, which I don't want in my whiskeys. And if I agitate it and put my hand over it or coin and just let it set for a second, then those highly volatile alcohols will actually escape. And it smells like apple vinegar. But if I let it sit, blow on it a little bit and get rid of those, it turns into something that is fruity, that is vanilla. Something where there's a little bit of that malt sugar going on in here. It turns into a very, very interesting dram. But it is a complex dram. It's not something for the faint of heart, and I've taken my time and I've tried to get to know this one. 261 bottles sold out within a day. Sorry. Where can you find it? Maybe on an auction, maybe on Whiskybase. There's a bottle on sale at the moment. What I really thought was fascinating is how strongly involved the whiskey community from FASSSTARK is, caskstrength.de, into the Whiskybase community. There's a thing at Whiskybase where you can actually put in your collections, the bottles that you have. There's 261 of these. Of the 261, more than half, 160, are registered and recorded on Whiskybase. I don't do that. My bottle is not on Whiskybase. I don't do that. But there are many, many people who apparently do. And so I think that's fantastic. More than half the bottles have been registered, and many of them are actually opened. And people have tried this. We have a lot of different reviews here. We have a lot of people who are trying to look for this bottle as well, that were too slow or just didn't, are not part of the active mailing list of FASSSTARK. And I shared this. This was gone very, very quickly. So on the nose, yes. Would I think it's BenRiach? Never. Glencadam is my first thought. It's an independently bottled Glencadam from a bourbon barrel, a reused bourbon barrel. But it's not. It's BenRiach. Cheers. I'm going to play around with my whiskey a little bit here. It's a little tart. It's a little bitter. It's very compact. There's just too much intensively concentrated moments for me to thoroughly enjoy this whiskey. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some water. Did I add 3 drops? No. I diluted this whiskey down to 46%, roundabout. In my personal opinion, that's the sweet spot of this whiskey. Why? It gets sweeter. There's more viscosity. There's less of a bitterness. There's absolutely no apple vinegar left in that whiskey. It's diluted down. And it turns into this wonderful, wonderful summer drinking, sipping whiskey. And it's very, very nice. I do not have that feeling at the 57.1%. It's just too strong for me. Is the whiskey too strong or am I too weak? Probably I'm too weak. There might be people out there going, this is the best stuff I've ever had. Exactly right. And I'm going, no. So I'm a little bit of a wimp when it comes to my cask strength whiskeys. Okay, I get a little bit of a mineral moment. I get a little bit of a daisy flower moment. I'm going to revise that. It's not daisies. There's more of a rose petal, rose water moment going on here. It turns into something very, very pleasant. As I said, this is a beautiful summer sipping whiskey. It has enough complexity that it will keep your attention focused. Starfruit. Green apples. Crème brûlée. A tiny, tiny little bit of caramel going on there. Nice. Honey. It's got complexity. And that complexity is so dense in its natural cask strength state that I could not comprehend all of it. And that's why I need to water it down. With water, it's a C+ whiskey. 79 euros is not the cheapest whiskey at the moment, but it is an independent single cask bourbon, single bourbon cask bottling here at cask strength, non-chilled filtered, no color added. And so I think the price is, at this time in the whiskey journey in 2022, this is an okay price for this whiskey. 13 years of age, wonderful. So my question is, you will never see this bottle, sorry. It's going to stick in with the German fans, and many of them are going to open it. This is not a bottle that's going to be traded, and it's not going to be a bottle that actually will increase in price. It's a bottle that people are going to open, enjoy, and share, I hope. Whiskey isn't whiskey until it's shared. Thank you very much, Aquavit and Roy. Now, I've tried this diluted down to the 46, 48%, and I'm going to go back now to 51%. And it's just missing a little bit. It really, really needs that water to expand and to dissect all that compressed flavor profiles here. Some people like to use heat, warm up their whiskey. Some people like to use air time, leave it set out for an hour or two. And some people like me like to use water to dilute the whiskey down to a point that is more palatable to us. And that's my second question of the day. What's your usage of water? Do you like reducing whiskeys down to your drinking ABV, or do you say, hey, God created this whiskey at 57.1%, and now I'm going to drink it like 57.1% because I'm a man and I have to do that? I definitely hope not. I hope you have enough courage to add a little bit of water, which I'm going to do anyways, so I can just enjoy this whiskey and share it with you. What's your favorite BenRiach bottling? And or what is your opinion of adding water? Are you a fan? I am, especially after experimenting a little bit with this. Malt, starfruit, honey, powdered sugar, a little bit powdered sugar icing, light caramel, and barley sweetness. And a few more things to discover if you take your time. All right, all the best. See you soon. Whiskey Jason. Like, subscribe, tell others, and don't forget to maybe even share this video. See you. Bye-bye.